From the depths of the Chilean desert, where ancient civilizations had once gazed at the stars with wonder, modern humanity made its first contact with a cry for help from the cosmos. The Atacama Deep Space Array stood silent against the backdrop of towering mountains, its massive dishes turning endlessly in their eternal dance with the stars. Dr. Juan Kim's night shift had started like any other. The soft hum of computers and the gentle whir of cooling fans filled the control room as he monitored the incoming data streams. The coffee in his mug had grown cold, forgotten as he pored over the routine signals from distant stars. Then everything changed. The monitors erupted in a cascade of data, patterns unlike anything recorded in human history. The quantum frequencies, usually stable and predictable, began to pulse with an almost organic rhythm. Dr. Kim blinked, unsure if his tired eyes were playing tricks on him. "Dr. Park, Dr. Lee, you need to see this." His voice echoed through the facility's corridors. Within moments, his colleagues rushed into the control room, their footsteps breaking the midnight silence. Dr. G. Park reached the main console first, his eyes widening as he studied the readings. Dr. Yuna Lee followed close behind, her tablet already connecting to the main system as she began running analysis protocols. "These patterns," Jim muttered, adjusting his glasses. "They're structured. Too structured to be natural." Yuna's fingers danced across her holographic interface, bringing up comparison charts and running pattern recognition algorithms. The three scientists watched as the data formed into clear, repeating sequences. "Look at this," Yuna said, projecting a three-dimensional representation of the signal. "The quantum variance shows clear signs of artificial manipulation. Someone out there is trying to talk to us." Hours passed as they worked to decode the message. Coffee cups piled up, and the sun began to peek over the horizon, painting the desert in shades of gold and red. Finally, Yuna's translation program began to make sense of the alien transmission. "It's a distress call," she announced, her voice trembling with excitement and concern. "They're asking for help. Whoever they are, they're in trouble." The news spread quickly through Earth's scientific community. Within hours, the Galactic Council, a collective of advanced alien civilizations that had largely dismissed humanity as primitive newcomers to space, issued their response. Their message was clear. The signal originated from a dangerous region of space, far beyond established safe zones. They advised against any attempt at investigation or rescue. But humanity had never been good at following others' warnings. Instead, the strange signal awakened something deep in the human spirit, a calling that went beyond logic or self-preservation. As the data continued to pour in, Earth's greatest minds gathered virtually and in person. They debated the signal's authenticity, the risks of response, and the implications of action versus inaction. The Galactic Council's representatives watched with barely concealed disdain as humans considered what they saw as a foolish endeavor. Dr. Kim stood before the emergency meeting of the World Space Coalition, presenting his team's findings. "The signal shows signs of degradation," he explained, pointing to the data charts. "Whoever sent this message is running out of time." In orbit, Earth's advanced ships sat ready, their crews already volunteering for what might be a one-way mission. The human drive to help, to reach out to those in need, proved stronger than any alien warning or logical argument against action. As the debate raged on Earth, Dr. Kim returned to his post at the array. He sat alone in the control room, watching new data stream in from the mysterious signal. In those quiet moments, as the dishes turned silently above him, he understood something fundamental about humanity's place in the cosmos. "We can't ignore this," he whispered to himself, his words lost in the gentle hum of the computers. "Not just because we want to help, but because this is who we are. This is what makes us human." The signal continued its dance across his screens, a reminder that somewhere in the vast darkness of space, someone was asking for help. And humanity, despite all warnings and against all odds, was about to answer that call. The massive viewing windows of the ESS Endeavour's bridge offered a breathtaking view of Earth below. Captain Sun Choi stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching as the final preparations for humanity's boldest mission unfolded before him. The ship hummed with energy, its advanced systems ready for the journey ahead. Around the Endeavour, 4 other ships held position in high Earth orbit. Each vessel represented different nations united in a single purpose: to answer a distant cry for help. The Chinese vessel Dragon's Grace, its red hull gleaming in the sunlight. The sleek Indian ship Shakti, bristling with advanced sensors. The European Unity, carrying the most advanced medical facilities ever put into space. And the African Confederation's Star Seeker, whose revolutionary engines would help guide them through the unknown. Commander Da Song approached his captain, holding a data tablet. His usually calm face showed signs of concern as he reviewed the latest messages from Earth's alien contacts. The Arcturians sent another warning, Day said, his voice low. They say we're throwing away lives on a fool's errand. Their ambassador called it the desperate flailing of children who don't know better. Sun turned from the window, a slight smile crossing his face. Show me the exact message. The holographic display sprang to life between them, showing the Arcturians' elegant script translated into Earth Standard. Their words dripped with condescension, warning of the dangers that lay ahead. Spatial anomalies, radiation fields, and phenomena beyond human understanding. They're not entirely wrong about the dangers, Sun admitted, studying the message. But they're wrong about us. Around them, the bridge crew worked at their stations, each focused on their pre-launch checks. Lieutenant Min at navigation, plotting their course through the stars. Engineer Kang at the power systems, ensuring every circuit and conduit was ready for the strain ahead. Medical Officer Lee reviewing her supplies one final time. A soft chime announced an incoming transmission. Captain, Communications Officer Park called out. The other ships report ready for launch. They're waiting for your signal. Sun nodded, taking his place in the command chair. The bridge lights dimmed slightly as main power shifted to launch configuration. Through the windows, he could see the gathering of alien observation vessels, sleek ships of the Arcturians, the crystalline structures of the Rigelians, and dozens more. They had come to watch what they assumed would be humanity's first great failure in galactic politics. Open a channel to all ships, Sun ordered. As Park complied, he took a moment to gather his thoughts. This is Captain Choi. In a few moments, we'll embark on the longest journey humanity has ever attempted. The Galactic Council has warned us against this mission. They say we're too young, too inexperienced, too foolish to succeed. He paused, looking at each member of his crew. But they don't understand what drives us. Throughout human history, whenever someone is called for help, there have always been those who answer. Distance doesn't matter. Danger doesn't matter. What matters is that somewhere out there, someone needs us. The ship's systems hummed louder as final launch preparations completed. Outside, the alien observers moved to safe distances, their sensors trained on the human fleet. All ships, prepare for launch sequence, Sun commanded. Commander Song, start the countdown. Day began the sequence, his voice steady. Launch in 10, 9, 8. Sun felt the subtle shift as the Endeavour's artificial gravity adjusted. Around the ship, powerful engines came to life, ready to tear a hole in space itself. 7, 6, 5. Through the windows, the stars seemed to brighten, as if welcoming humanity's first real step into their realm. 4, 3, 2. Sun gripped his chair's arms, his voice firm as he gave the final command. All ships, engage drives. Let's show the galaxy what humanity can do. 1. Launch. In perfect synchronization, 5 ships broke free from Earth's orbit. Their engines flared with brilliant light, pushing against the very fabric of space-time. The alien observers recorded everything, their instruments capturing the moment humanity defied their warnings and reached for the stars. As the fleet accelerated toward their jump point, Sun received one final message from Earth. It was from Dr. Kim at the Atacama Array. The signal is getting weaker. Please hurry. The captain looked ahead at the star-filled void, knowing that somewhere out there, someone was counting on them. The Arcturians and their allies might think humans foolish, but they would soon learn a valuable lesson about the spirit of humanity. Prepare for dimensional jump, Sun ordered. Let's show them what fools can do. The fleet vanished into the depths of space, leaving behind a galaxy of watchers who would soon learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology or their knowledge, but in their unwavering determination to help those in need. The vast emptiness of deep space stretched endlessly before the fleet, broken only by strange twists of light that bent and warped the starfield ahead. 3 months of constant travel had brought them to the edge of known space, where the laws of physics began to break down in ways that made even the most experienced crew members uneasy. Lieutenant Han Ryu stood in the Endeavor's observation deck, watching as another wave of spatial distortion rippled across the void. Behind her, the holographic display showed the fleet's current position, 5 small points of light surrounded by swirling chaos. "It's beautiful, in a way," she murmured, making notes on her tablet as new data streamed in from the fleet's sensor arrays. The distortions had grown stronger over the past week, making conventional navigation impossible. 2 ships had already reported minor system failures from trying to push through. Captain Sun's voice came through the ship's communication system. "Lieutenant Ryu, report to the command center. The other captains are waiting." In the command center, the fleet's 5 captains gathered around a large holographic display. Their faces showed the strain of 3 months in deep space, but their determination remained unshaken. Captain Sun gestured for Han to take the lead. "Show us what you found, Lieutenant," he said. Han adjusted the display, bringing up the latest sensor readings. "For the past week, we've been treating these anomalies as obstacles to avoid. But look at this." She highlighted a pattern in the data, a repeating sequence that seemed to flow through the chaos. The room fell silent as the other captains studied the display. Captain Chen of the Dragon's Grace was the first to speak. "These patterns, they're not random at all, are they?" "No," Han replied, expanding the display to show a 3-dimensional model of the space around them. "They're more like ripples in a pond. But instead of moving across the surface of water, they're moving through space-time itself." She manipulated the display, showing how the distortions flowed and intersected. "See how they interact. It's like waves crossing each other. When they meet, they create points of stability, places where space remains normal enough for us to pass through." Captain Patul of the Shakti leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "The Arcturians said this region was impossible to navigate. Their ships tried and failed." "The Arcturians rely too much on their advanced technology," Han explained. "Their navigation systems try to plot straight courses through space. But look at this." She overlaid a new pattern on the display. "If we follow the natural flow of the distortions, like a leaf floating on water, we can find safe passages." The captains exchanged looks. What Han proposed was unlike anything in their training or experience. It meant trusting not in their advanced technology, but in their ability to read and understand the fundamental patterns of space itself. "Can our ships handle this kind of navigation?" Captain Okoro of the Star Seeker asked. "We'd be deliberately riding these distortions rather than fighting against them." Han nodded. "Our navigation systems are simpler than the alien technology. They're more flexible. We can adapt them to work with these patterns instead of trying to force our way through." Over the next few hours, Han worked with the fleet's navigation teams to implement her new approach. The ship's computers were reprogrammed to recognize and follow the stable paths created by intersecting distortions. As the fleet prepared to test Han's theory, she returned to the observation deck. Captain Sun joined her, watching as the first waves of distortion approached their position. "The Arcturians said this region was impassable," Sun remarked. "They said we'd never find a way through." Han smiled slightly, checking the final calculations on her tablet. "They forgot something important about humans, Captain. We don't just look for existing paths, We create new ones. The first ship, the Star Seeker, moved forward into the distortion field. Following Hand's calculations, it rode the waves of warped space like a surfer on Earth's oceans. One by one, the other ships followed, finding their way through passages that, according to the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, didn't exist. As the Endeavor took its place in the formation, Han watched the stars twist and dance through the distortions. The ship's hull hummed as it adapted to the strange forces around it, but held steady. Somewhere ahead, beyond this maze of bent space and broken physics, someone was still calling for help. "Lieutenant," Sun said quietly, "I think you've just changed the way humanity navigates space." Han kept her eyes on the swirling chaos ahead, watching as their fleet found its way through the impossible. "We're just getting started, Captain. There's so much more out there to understand." The fleet pressed on, moving deeper into unknown space, proving with each passing moment that humanity's greatest strength lay not in their technology, but in their ability to see patterns where others saw only chaos, to find hope where others found only obstacles. And somewhere, in the distant darkness ahead, their destination waited. The fleet emerged from the last spatial distortion to find a sight that took their breath away. Before them hung a massive star system, its central star pulsing with an angry red glow. Vast structures of metal and crystal surrounded the dying star, their surfaces reflecting the crimson light in endless patterns. Senior Ambassador Min Park stood on the Endeavor's bridge, his experienced diplomat's composure barely hiding his awe. Around him, the crew worked in stunned silence as their sensors tried to make sense of what they were seeing. "Those structures," Captain Sun said, pointing to the massive arrays that encircled the star, "they're like nothing we've ever seen before." The structures seemed to dance around the star, shifting and moving in complex patterns. Some were clearly designed to collect energy, while others appeared to be habitats of some kind. But all of them showed signs of strain, their surfaces marked by the star's increasing instability. "We're receiving a transmission," Communications Officer Park announced. "It's different from the distress signal, much clearer." Min stepped forward, put it through to the main display. The holographic screen came to life, and for the first time, humanity saw the faces of those they had come to save. The Meridian representative appeared as a being of living crystal, its form shifting and flowing like water made solid. Patterns of light moved through its crystalline body, creating what seemed to be expressions. "You came." The Meridian's thoughts translated directly into their minds, a mixture of surprise and hope coloring the mental voice. "We had almost lost hope. All others who received our signal deemed us too distant, too difficult to reach." Min took a deep breath, centering himself before responding. "I am Senior Ambassador Min Park, representing the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress call and came to help." The crystalline being shifted, its form reflecting the red light of its dying star. "But you are young. Your ships are primitive compared to others we have seen. The journey through the anomaly field should have been impossible for you." "We found a way," Min replied simply. "That's what humans do when others need help." The Meridian's form pulsed with what seemed to be curiosity. "The Galactic Council warned us that no help would come. They said the risk was too great, the distance too far. Yet here you stand, a species barely out of its own solar system." Around the bridge, the crew watched the exchange in fascination. The Meridian's crystalline form projected images of their civilization, a culture millions of years old, advanced beyond human understanding, now brought low by their star's unexpected death. "Our scientists predict final stellar collapse within 30 days, the Meridian conveyed, its form darkening with what might have been despair. "We have tried everything within our power to stabilize the star, but nothing works. Our greatest minds are trapped here, along with millions of our people." Min looked at Captain Sun, who nodded slightly. "Show us everything you know about the star's condition," Min said. "Let us see if human eyes might find something yours have missed." The Meridian paused, its crystalline form shimmering with what seemed like uncertainty. you would still try to help us, even knowing the danger, even knowing we may all die in the attempt." Min smiled, a gesture that seemed to fascinate the crystalline being. "Throughout human history, we've learned one important truth. Sometimes the most impossible tasks are the ones most worth attempting." The bridge filled with data as the Meridians shared their knowledge. Star charts, energy readings, evacuation plans that had failed. Everything they knew about their dying system appeared in the ship's computers. "We have brought our best scientists, our strongest ships, and our most determined people," Min continued. "We came because you needed help. That's all the reason we needed." The Meridian's form brightened, patterns of hope beginning to flow through its crystalline structure. For the first time since humans had arrived, it moved closer to the screen, its surface catching and reflecting the light in ways that seemed almost like a smile. Then perhaps, it conveyed, the Galactic Council was wrong about more than just the impossibility of reaching us. Perhaps they were wrong about the potential of young species as well. As the Endeavor moved closer to the massive structures surrounding the dying star, Min watched the Meridian's world unfold before them. Despite the danger, despite the challenge ahead, he felt a sense of rightness about their mission. They had crossed the impossible to reach this place, and now they would attempt the impossible again, to save a civilization that the galaxy's oldest species had abandoned. It was, Min realized, exactly the kind of task humanity had been preparing for throughout its entire history. The star pulsed ominously behind them, a constant reminder of the deadline they faced. But as Min looked at the determined faces of the crew around him, he knew they would find a way. They always did. Deep within the engineering bay of the ESS Endeavor, Chief Engineer Soo Kim stared at the holographic display of the dying star system. Red warning indicators flashed across the screen, showing the increasing instability of the Meridian's home star. Time was running out faster than anyone had expected. Around her, both human and Meridian engineers worked in an unusual harmony. The crystalline beings moved with fluid grace between workstations, their bodies casting rainbow refractions across the metal walls. Their presence had initially startled the human crew, but now they worked together as if they had been doing so for years. "The core temperature has risen another 12%, one of the Meridian scientists reported, its thoughts carrying a tone of worry. "The collapse is accelerating beyond our initial predictions." Sue nodded, her fingers moving across the control panel as she brought up new simulations. The numbers were grim. They had less time than they had initially thought. Millions of Meridian lives hung in the balance, along with countless years of their civilization's knowledge and achievements. "Show me the habitat structures again," she requested, pushing aside her exhaustion. She had been working for 20 hours straight, but there was no time for rest. The display shifted, showing the massive living spaces where the Meridian population resided. Each habitat was a marvel of engineering, designed to house thousands in relative comfort. But now these same structures that had protected the Meridians for generations were becoming their prison. "Your people tried to move the habitats using standard propulsion?" Sue asked, studying the structure's design. "Yes," the Meridian engineer responded, its crystalline form dimming slightly with remembered failure. "But the energy requirements were too great. We could not generate enough power to move even one habitat before the star's radiation would destroy it." Sue stood up, walking closer to the display. She reached out, rotating the image of one of the habitats with her hands. "What if we stopped thinking about moving them and started thinking about containing them?" The Meridians shifted, their forms showing curiosity. "Explain." "Look at our ships," Sue said, bringing up the schematics of the Earth fleet. "We use quantum field generators to create stable bubbles around our vessels for faster-than-light travel. The technology is simple compared to yours, but it's incredibly adaptable." She manipulated the display, showing how the quantum fields could be modified. "If we reconfigure these fields, expand them, we could create stable bubbles large enough to encompass entire habitats." The Meridian engineers gathered closer, their crystalline forms pulsing with increased light as they studied the proposal. "But the power requirements." one began, would be far less than trying to move the habitats conventionally. Sue interrupted. We're not fighting against mass and inertia. We're creating a pocket of stable space around the habitat, then moving that pocket. The lead Meridian engineer's form sparkled with what seemed like excitement. Our own technology is too specialized, too advanced to be modified this way. But your simpler systems are flexible enough to be adapted, Sue finished. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. For the next several hours, human and Meridian engineers worked together to modify the Earth fleet's quantum field generators. The Meridians brought their advanced understanding of spatial mechanics, while the humans contributed their practical experience and innovative thinking. The first test is ready, Sue announced, her voice carrying across the engineering bay. Captain Sun and several other ship commanders had joined them, watching as the combined team prepared to test their theory. Outside the Endeavour, a small drone carried a modified quantum field generator toward one of the smaller Meridian structures. Everyone watched the displays intently as the drone activated its generator. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, a shimmer appeared around the structure, a bubble of contained space that separated it from the surrounding chaos of the dying star system. Field stability at 97%, one of the human engineers reported. Structure integrity maintaining. The Meridians moved closer to the displays, their crystalline forms bright with hope. It's working, their lead engineer conveyed. The structure is protected within the field. Sue allowed herself a small smile. This is just the beginning. We'll need to scale up the field generation dramatically to handle the main habitats. Every ship in the fleet will need to be modified. Captain Sun stepped forward. How long? 3 days to modify all ships, Sue replied. Then another day for testing. After that, she looked at the angry red star pulsing on the main screen. After that, we start saving these people. The Meridian engineer's form glowed with an inner light that seemed to mirror the determination in Sue's eyes. You have done what we thought impossible. With technology we considered primitive, you have found a way to save our people. Sue turned back to her work, already planning the modifications needed for the larger habitats. That's the thing about humans, she said quietly. We don't always have the most advanced solution, but we'll find a way to make what we have work. Around them, the star continued its death spiral, but now there was hope where before there had been only despair. The combined team of humans and Meridians worked through the night, preparing for the massive evacuation to come. Sometimes, Sue reflected, the greatest achievements come not from having the most advanced technology, but from having the courage and creativity to use what you have in ways nobody else imagined possible. Time had run out. The dying star pulsed with angry red flares, each burst of energy more violent than the last. From the bridge of the ESS Endeavour, Captain Sun watched as the massive stellar body began its final death throes. All ships report ready, Commander Day announced, his voice steady despite the tension filling the bridge. Quantum field generators are at full power. Across the system, the 5 Earth ships moved into position around the largest Meridian habitats. Each vessel looked tiny compared to the structures they were trying to save, like small fish trying to move a whale. Begin field generation, Sun ordered. Starseeker, you have first position. The African ship's modified quantum generators hummed to life, creating a shimmering bubble of contained space around the nearest habitat. Inside the structure, millions of Meridians waited, their crystalline forms glowing with a mixture of hope and fear. Field stability at 97%, Day reported, monitoring the readings. Structure integrity maintaining. Starseeker reports ready for transport. Sun took a deep breath. Begin sequence. The Starseeker's engines flared as it began to move, pulling the massive habitat within its quantum bubble. The structure, which had remained fixed in space for thousands of years, began to move. Second habitat targeted, Communications Officer Park announced. Dragon's Grace moving into position. One by one, each ship created its protective field around a Meridian habitat. The Endeavor took the largest structure, containing the heart of Meridian civilization, their central archives, their governing council, their most critical systems. Warning, the ship's computer announced. Star core temperature rising rapidly. Estimated time to critical mass. 3 hours. The bridge crew worked with focused intensity, monitoring every aspect of the rescue operation. Engineers pushed their systems beyond design limits, reinforcing the quantum fields as the star's increasing radiation threatened to disrupt them. Hull temperature rising. Lieutenant Min reported from her station. The star's radiation is intensifying faster than predicted. Sun watched as the first habitat cleared the danger zone, the Star Seeker pulling it to safety. How many more can we save in 3 hours? Day quickly calculated. At current speed, we can evacuate 12 more habitats, but there are 15 remaining. Then we work faster, Sun stated firmly. Divert auxiliary power to the field generators. We're not leaving anyone behind. The ship's crews pushed themselves to their limits, working through exhaustion as they fought against time itself. The Meridians inside the habitats helped where they could, using their advanced technology to strengthen the quantum fields from within. 2 hours passed. 10 habitats had been moved to safety, but 5 remained. The star's surface roiled with plasma storms, its core approaching the point of no return. Field stability dropping, Dai warned. 93%, 89%. Reroute power from life support if you have to. Sun ordered. We need those fields. The Endeavor shuddered as another solar flare washed over them. Warning lights flashed across every console as systems strained against the increasing radiation. 2 habitats remaining, Park reported. Star Seeker reports their engines are overheating. They can't maintain field integrity much longer. Sun opened a channel to all ships. This is what we came for. Push everything you've got into those fields. We're almost there. The crews responded with determined silence, focusing every ounce of their energy on the task at hand. The last 2 habitats began to move, protected within their quantum bubbles as the star began its final collapse. Core critical mass in 5 minutes, the computer warned. Radiation levels exceeding safe limits. The final moments passed in a blur of activity. Warning signals blared as systems reached their breaking points. But slowly, steadily, the last habitats moved beyond the danger zone. Final habitat secured, Day announced, his voice showing relief for the first time in hours. All Meridian structures are clear. The fleet barely had time to retreat before the star reached its end. The ancient stellar body collapsed in on itself, then exploded outward in a brilliant burst of light and energy. But its destruction found no victims. Every habitat, every Meridian, was safe. As the light faded, Sun looked at his exhausted crew. Their ships were damaged, their systems strained almost to the point of failure. But they had done what the galaxy's most advanced civilizations had deemed impossible. A message came through from the Meridian Council. You have saved not just our lives, but our entire civilization. We did not believe such a thing was possible. Sun smiled slightly, watching as his crew began damage assessment and repair work without being ordered. Humanity has a saying, he responded. The impossible just takes a little longer. The fleet regrouped around the saved habitats, their mission accomplished against all odds. They had pushed themselves, their ships and their technology beyond their limits, proving that determination and courage could overcome any obstacle. As repair work began, Sun knew that the galaxy would never look at humanity quite the same way again. They had done what no one else would even attempt, not because it was easy, but because it was right. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched upward into darkness, its ancient walls carved with the history of 1,000 civilizations. Hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy gathered in their floating platforms, their forms as varied as the stars themselves. Today, they had come to witness something unprecedented. Captain Sun stood on the central platform, the rest of the human fleet commanders beside him. Behind them, the crystalline forms of the Meridian leadership glowed with quiet dignity. The chamber hummed with whispered conversations in countless languages as the council eldest, a being of pure energy, called for silence. We gather today to address the actions of humanity. The eldest's thoughts echoed through the chamber. 4 days ago, they achieved what this council deemed impossible. Holographic displays activated throughout the chamber, showing recordings of the rescue operation. The human ships appeared tiny against the massive Meridian habitats, their modified quantum fields shimmering as they pulled millions to safety. The Meridians have petitioned for humanity's immediate elevation in galactic standing, the eldest continued. This is highly irregular. Such advancement typically takes centuries of proven contribution to galactic society. From their platform, the Arcturian delegation stirred. These humans ignored our explicit warnings, their representative stated. They risked not only their own lives, but the stability of an entire sector of space. And in doing so, they saved millions. A Meridian leader countered, its crystalline form pulsing with emotion. When the oldest and wisest species in the galaxy abandoned us to our fate, humanity answered our call. Sun stepped forward when the council gestured for him to speak. His voice, though quiet, carried clearly through the vast chamber. We came because it was right. That's all there was to it. The chamber erupted in a cascade of mental and verbal communications. Some council members argued for caution, others for recognition of humanity's achievement. The debate might have continued for hours, but then something unexpected happened. A Meridian elder floated forward, its crystalline form shifting into a complex pattern that drew all eyes. "Let me show you what these humans did," it communicated, projecting its memories into the shared consciousness of the council. The chamber filled with images, human engineers working alongside Meridian scientists, finding solutions where none seemed possible. The fleet crews pushing themselves beyond exhaustion to save one more habitat, then another. The moment when the last structure cleared the dying star's reach, saved by determination and ingenuity. But more than their actions, the Meridian continued. Look at their reason. It projected the simple conversations, the moments when humans were asked why they came. Each time, the answer was the same: because help was needed. The council eldest's energy form flickered thoughtfully. "Captain Sun, your species is young. You lack the technology and knowledge that others here have accumulated over millions of years. Yet you succeeded where they claimed success was impossible. How?" Sun looked at his crew, at the Meridian representatives, then back at the council. "With respect, I think you've forgotten something important. Advanced technology and ancient knowledge are valuable, but they're not everything. Sometimes the most important thing is simply the will to help, no matter the cost." A murmur ran through the chamber as his words were translated and shared. The eldest's form brightened. "And this is common among your people. This willingness to help strangers. It's who we are," Sun replied simply. "Throughout human history, whenever someone has called for help, there have always been those who answer. Distance doesn't matter. Danger doesn't matter. What matters is that someone needs us." The council chamber fell silent. The eldest's form pulsed with what might have been amusement. Perhaps, it communicated, we have grown too comfortable in our wisdom, too certain in our limitations. You humans remind us of something we had forgotten. The vote, when it came, was nearly unanimous. Humanity would be elevated to full council status, with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. But more importantly, their story would be added to the council chamber's walls. A reminder that sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from the youngest voices. As the human delegation prepared to return home, the Meridian elder approached Sun one last time. "Your people have changed the galaxy today," it conveyed, "not through power or technology, but through something far simpler." Sun nodded, understanding. They had changed the galaxy by remembering what others had forgotten. That the measure of a civilization isn't in its achievements or its technology, but in its willingness to help others in need. The story would be told for generations, not as a tale of impossible rescue or technological innovation, but as a reminder of the simple truth that sometimes the youngest among us remember what the oldest have forgotten.